In my mind, there's one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. You can find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit, or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello and welcome to a bonus edition of Your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, November 29th, 2024. The snow is out. I am Jer Stays. Joining me on the line, Fletcher Sharpe, to talk about a Lions victory over the Bears. But here's the thing, Fletcher Sharpe. I almost feel like Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan needs to send a little gift to Brandon Johnson in Chicago for basically their team crumpling at the end there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could exchange Thanksgiving gifts because with this loss, the way that it happened, the Chicago Bears fired their coach. And I know a lot of Chicago Bears fans did not want this guy to keep being there. So in a way, they kind of helped each other.
Yeah, Eberflus kind of Eberflubbed.
That's one way to put it.
Well, this game, I'm glad we got the W, but it kind of surfaced some nagging concerns I think that we both have around the Lions. There are a lot of injuries, aren't there? And at least by the eye test, it feels like the team started having some issues. And I think this is the first time during the season where I was like, oh, this isn't like, are we going to hold on for this thing?
Malcolm Rodriguez, who's kind of morphed into one of the better players on the Lions defense, was lost after this game with an ACL injury for the entire season, which now gives the Lions 17 starters, 17 players on injured reserve, most of whom starters, and 12 of them on the defensive side. And Rodriguez becomes the fifth linebacker on IR, which doesn't necessarily mean that players on injured reserve are not able to come back. Like Enos Rakestraw is currently on IR, but he's eligible to come back week 16. But currently there are 17 players who are not active and eligible to play for the Lions right now due to injury. And that by far is like the league lead in injury. It's not great. And it's making the defense, which already is kind of a strenuous job in the NFL as is, a lot tougher because you have players who used to be bit players who now have to play. And players who are learning different positions on the fly, players who might be a backup player who might know the role of I come in and spell this guy. Now, instead of playing 15 snaps a game, you're playing like 80. It definitely changes the complexion of a team.
And I imagine it's kind of difficult to scheme out of that.
Oh, no, you don't really get to. Injuries are something you really can't scheme out of. Because at least when you have a full healthy player, it's like maybe we have one corner who's great in bump and run coverage, but not really great in zone. So when it comes for a short yardage, we bring him in to help here. But if he's your only corner, bump and run or zone, he has to play it. And you have to hope that they just don't flounder when they're put out there. And unfortunately, at times, some of those players who have stepped up due to injury have floundered.
Is there kind of a compounding effect? Because at least it feels like to me that as your better players get hurt, it puts more stress on other players, which actually makes their jobs harder. It feels like the pace has increased. Like at the end of that game, it felt like every few minutes we had another Lion down.
It's one of those things where the pass rush now has to be better because the defensive secondary is getting marginally worse and worse with players not being able to play. And then on the flip side, the defensive secondary has to be better because every so often it feels like a lineman or a linebacker is going down with an injury. So like you have to help each other. And if you're both getting marginally worse bit by bit, then the effect is you give up 3 passing touchdowns in the second half.
This isn't a Chicago podcast, so we're not going to, I don't want to spend tons of time on the Bears, but really, you know, you used to play quarterback. Like what happened in those last couple of minutes?
So for the Bears, what happened was they were trying to conserve their timeout. They had a play originally called for Caleb Williams, and when he got sacked on, which was a quarterback draw, which is when the quarterback takes the ball, fakes like he's going to pass, and runs up the middle, which is idiotic with like 35 seconds left, unless your quarterback is Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson. Caleb Williams is a tremendous athlete at his size, but he's not someone who's going to run away from people like that. So calling that play to start was already bad. So they were trying to keep the play that they had. So when they were trying to line up for the play, they gave Caleb Williams a play that he looked at and saw was not a proper play. So he tried to call an audible, and his team was trying to shift into position to be an audible. So that's why you see him looking around and everyone is set. Then he starts tapping his helmet to indicate a different play. And then he realizes that play is not going to work. So he's like, I got to get something off. So he waits until 5-6 seconds, gets the play off, throws a pass to Rome Odunze, and it falls incomplete. Honestly, if you want to blame someone in that entire scenario, people are like, the quarterback should know. That's on the coach. When I used to coach, we had one coach on our staff who was responsible for knowing how many timeouts were left. Like, obviously, we all have actual positional things. Like, he does the quarterbacks, defensive coordinator, receivers coach. So I was the quarterback's coach, but I also was in charge of how many timeouts do we have? So when it gets late and they say, how many timeouts, they looked at me because I was quote unquote the smartest. And it's like, you tell us how many timeouts we have so we know. So in that situation, one of the coaches should have been in the coach's ear, like, use the timeout. It's taking too long, use the timeout. Instead, they elected to try to play through, and it looks even worse because before he was fired, their coach said that they played out the way he's pleased, he's okay with the way that it played out, which is insane. It's an insane thing to say when your job is hanging on by a thread, to say that you are okay with one of the biggest brain farts in recent NFL memory.
Let's say they tie and lose to the Lions or something. I think he still has a job because, look, the Lions are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I honestly got a little same old Lionsy when I saw them line up quickly after the sack. And I was like, oh no, I know why they're doing this, because if the team doesn't make a sub offensively, you cannot really make one defensively. So if they had a play set, it's like, all right, well, the Lions can't get a sub out if someone's tired. If they run something deep and say someone like Kindle Vildor is in the wrong position again, that's a touchdown, and the Lions will lose embarrassingly for another year on Thanksgiving. But when they held the ball for a second, I was like, is something going on? Like, is there
It even looked like Dan Campbell was lost.
Yeah, I mean, even one of the Bears safeties was like, I thought we'd at least get a field goal or something. Now, when you have players questioning your own coach's decisions publicly, it's really not a good look. It's really a bad look for not just the team, but the organization as a whole. Because if the players don't believe in the guy who's in charge, why should you?
Let's talk about Kindle Vildor for a second, because, man, there was a play. I don't remember exactly what it is. I know you probably remember it, but I had the mental image of you in front of the TV, in front of your couch, just being like, Vildor, like, just mad about it. Because he did exactly what you criticize him for. And unfortunately, with all these injuries, we're going to need him to, like, find some sort of revelation or something.
There are a few plays, but the biggest one that people will talk about that they think is bad, that I actually understand the flag entirely, was that late pass interference. And I know people say that I'm kind of harsh on him. And the reason why I am is because he's an NFL cornerback. It's not like he's a rookie he's been in the league for a little bit. He used to play for Chicago, honestly. So the fact that, like, he commits these mistakes so late in games, whether it's a blown coverage, whether it's like, if you see a receiver running a route really fast and you see the quarterback throw the ball, if you know Vildor is on that side, you know that receiver's open. Like, you know that he's not lock and step with him. But on this particular play, Caleb Williams threw a ball to Keenan Allen. I think it was Keenan Allen. And the ball fell kind of flat. Vildor dove to try to make a play on it. And then a flag came out late for pass interference. And everyone was like, what? I don't see what happened. What happened is, if you looked at the NFL All-22 cam, which shows a top of the field view, there's some hand fighting allowed in the NFL between receivers and cornerbacks. Not a problem at all. They were hand fighting. Right as Caleb threw the ball, got rid of it, one of the tenets of pass interference is a ball that a player is interfered with where they cannot catch a catchable ball. If the ball is uncatchable, if I throw a ball to you that's 50 feet in the air and someone interferes with you, it doesn't matter because we could not catch it. So by definition, that ball is probably uncatchable by Keenan Allen. But what the ref saw, and the reason why the flag came so late, right before the ball was thrown, as it was leaving his hand, Kindle Vildor got one last hard yank on Keenan Allen so he could not move, and then dove for the ball. And while he wasn't going to catch it, I think he got like a hand on it or something, which would indicate to the referee that it might have been catchable had you not tugged on this guy. Probably not, but might have been catchable. So had he just not done that and just continued to hand fight normally and just let him do whatever, it would have been fine. But that last little tug, that's why the flag came out super late. Because they saw the last tug at the last second and were like, oh man, flag. And I know Dan Campbell's okay with he's like, I'm okay with that play because he's fighting through it, which is fine. A coach is supposed to say that. But like, man, come on, man. Like you know why that's not an okay play. And all these people saying, well, it's just a line. No, I understand the Lions juju and the refs don't like the line. That was a straight up call. I'm okay with that call. If that call did not happen going the other way, I would be irate that the refs missed a call. That's a proper NFL call. And the issue that we mentioned with injuries and such is Kindle Vildor, especially after last year's season where he was just roasted left and right. He was back on the roster as like a secondary, tertiary cornerback. He was somebody who's like, I can come in when Carlton or Terrian or a Meek needs a break. But like, I'm not going to be out here for extended periods of time. If it's late in game, it's going to be Carlton and Terrian. Unfortunately, Terrian's off a groin injury. He's back, but like he's carrying that and he had to be one side. Carlton has a big old broken thumb that he's nursing, which I figured he'd probably be hindered after having a short week. Enos Rakestraw is on IR currently. So like, Vildor has to step up. He has to hop in and play. He's no longer a bit player. So his mistakes that he makes that are like a bit here, get way more amplified because instead of playing 15, 20 snaps, he's out there for 80. And it becomes a much bigger problem to manage.
Putting on the coach hat, as you have, you've got this next week before Green Bay. What are you working on with him? Like, what's the number one thing he needs to address?
Hope he's a man of faith. He can talk to someone up there and be like, make me a better player real quick.
All right. Keeping it 100. Let's talk about the addition of Kwon Alexander. Who is this guy? Like, I feel like I've heard the name before, but like when I saw it, I was like, practice squad? I didn't even know Fletcher Sharpe. I didn't even know that you could like, and fully, I will own this. Did not know that you could sign somebody off of somebody else's practice squad so easily.
Yeah, practice squad players are like claiming someone in baseball off waivers. Like they are officially, they're a player for that organization, but they are not on like the full first team roster. So like if you want to sign someone off a practice squad, obviously like the team gets some compensation a little bit. I'm not really sure the process of that, but I do know that you're allowed to sign people off of practice squads, especially if they have not cleared waivers yet. Kwon Alexander is someone who's been in the NFL for some time out of LSU. He graduated 2014 or left 2014. If this was a signing in like 2018, 2019, it would be like, heck yeah, this is a solid pick. Pro Bowler 2017, NFL leader in tackles 2016, all rookie team 2015. Had some injury issues 2 years ago with the Jets and with the Steelers. I know he's coming off an Achilles thing, which is why he probably didn't. Still in the recovery mode. Achilles injuries take a long time to heal, especially in a position like linebacker where you're cutting and hitting. You need a lot of power. But when he was healthy, he was good. He was a good player. When he gets his arms around you, you are going down. Like it's not like you're going to break a Kwon Alexander tackle. Like if he gets his arms on you, you are going down. Play's over. With 9 interceptions as well as a linebacker, it means he's got active hands. It means he can drop into pass coverage. You obviously don't want him, to be your number one covering linebacker, but 34 deflections, 9 interceptions means he's got quick hands and he can help disrupt if a ball does get through the defensive line to somebody, which is helpful, especially with the Lions kind of having, one of the not best pass defenses in the NFL. Having linebackers who can help in coverage really helps a lot.
Well, and he's been on the practice squad, so I imagine he hasn't been as beat up. So this short season, like the short runway left, with just a few games, probably is a good thing, right?
Especially when you're hopping from a dumpster fire that's the Denver Broncos to a team that's many people think could win a Super Bowl. It's very much like he definitely traded up, kind of like Zadarius Smith going from the fire to the one putting stuff in the fire.
So you're generally positive about the signing.
Yeah, I think it's a positive. I mean, he's going to have to play more than you'd like for someone who is still coming off of an injury a little bit. Someone who did not really have much game playing this season. But when he's healthy, which I think he's getting towards healthy, he's a solid NFL player. He's someone who, like, if they could find it, if he plays well this second part of the season, finding a way to re-sign him would be nice. If he plays well enough, then like maybe they can make some room for him to be a permanent player on the 53.
So we've got the Packers coming up. I would normally not be as worried, but I feel like they've got some scores to settle, and I still feel like we've got a lot of wounds to lick. Like the way the timing of this game worked, how many people, it felt like we were losing somebody every few minutes. Like, we've got to find some way to kind of stabilize. Not that I don't have faith in Dan Campbell to do that, but this is a situation where the season's really starting to grind into us.
Yeah, and this is a different Lions team that beat the Packers, and this is a different Packers team that lost. Since that game, the Packers are undefeated, and they're kind of coming off a heater. Up until that point, Jordan Love had thrown 10 interceptions, including the one Kirby Joseph returned for a touchdown. Since that game, he's only thrown one. They're taking care of the ball better. Josh Jacobs is running the ball better. And their defense, which still is pretty good, is not the best, still is pretty good. They would love to get some interceptions back off Jared Goff. It's a NFL North Division rivalry game. It's gone, and since it's NFL Central, they've been heated rivals forever, so they already ingrained just don't like each other. But like, these Packers really don't like the way the Lions play. So getting a chance to beat this team, especially in a game that's going to be circled by everyone, it's the Thursday night game at 8:15. So everyone's going to be watching this game. They would love nothing more than to come into Ford Field in a hostile territory, just like last year, and get a definitive W over this team. And with the defense kind of feeling the way it is, it makes it a little bit harder to safely say, like, oh, they're fine. Like, you look at the odds, 68% of people have the Lions winning this game. Most of the analysts do, even with all the injuries. And like, even still, it still feels uncomfortable because it's not like Jordan Love is a scrub. It's not like they're playing against Will Levis or Daniel Jones, the new quarterback for the Vikings. They're playing against a quarterback who was a Pro Bowler last year, who's figuring out still how to be an NFL starting quarterback, but is still really good when he's good, against a secondary that includes Kindle Vildor and Khalil Dorsey, who most people know as a return man, less of a cornerback. So problems. It makes you feel a little uncomfortable going forward, especially when a rivalry game, records don't matter, but the Packers have a pretty good one.
Who are you looking to step up in this game to make it so the Lions feel a lot more like the team that we're used to?
Ben Johnson, honestly, the
Really?
offensive coordinator. Yeah, some of his play calling, like when the Lions get to a certain point, like he kind of starts calling some really funky plays, and I'm not talking about the trick plays either. Like, the trick plays are funny, but like, they only come out. But like, 3rd and 6, why are you calling for like a halfback dive and then immediately punt? Like, if you're making that call, it's because you think you're going to try to go for it. So why would you pick up 4 yards for a 4th and 2 and then decide, yeah, we're going to punt? Like, if you're going to make those calls and stick with it. You have to like play up. I don't think he's had a full game, even the games where there've been blowouts, before the game got super out of hand, where he had one game where he called it masterfully. Maybe save for the Cowboys game, and I think that was just revenge fuel. I don't think there's been maybe one game entirely. I don't think there's been 2 games for sure where he's called like the perfect game from him, where it's been tip to tail amazing. So that makes me a little worried. The Lions are going to need him to figure out how to do that and to keep it totally, foot on the gas. Because it's going to help the defense. It's going to help the special. It's going to help everyone else if they can just keep putting points on the board. So, like, maybe when you get up 24-6, maybe you don't take your foot off the pedal. Because if not, like, you could choke in the end.
I was really frustrated coming away with so many field goals against Chicago. I don't know how much of that was him, but I was really frustrated with that. And you can't do that against the Packers. And you really, really can't do that against the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are coming in after, and I know a lot of those Bills fans are annoyed that Jared Goff was even sniffing MVP candidacy. They can't wait to ram Josh Allen down our throat, to be like, look at this. So, like, they need to clean up whatever issues they have, take care of business against the Packers. The upside is not to go past the Packers. Upside is after the Packers game, December 5th, they have 10 days of rest between that game and the following game against the Bills. So take care of business next Thursday. Make sure everything is okay, and you still should be fine. Again, the Packers are no slouch. The NFL North is quickly becoming the best division in the NFL with 3 teams with 9+ wins, which is insane. That's an insane stat to have, is that 3 teams in one division all have 9+ wins. I think actually 10+ wins if we think count all whatever. So it's kind of just crazy that everyone there is firing on all cylinders. So you cannot lose these games. Like, if you want to lose a game, like, lose it out of your division. You cannot lose to the Packers this game, because it's going to count for not just 1 loss, but 2, because not only are you losing a game, but they're gaining a direct step on you, and the head-to-head as well.
I also think it's important we stay ahead of the Eagles, because the Eagles are 9-2 right now as we're recording this. It would be really good to stay ahead of the Eagles. That way you kind of like run the table as far as playoff positioning and everything.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, Saquon Barkley, their running back, can run anywhere. So, like, whether it's at Ford Field or at their stadium, like, their issue is making sure that he doesn't hurdle over someone backwards again on the way to 210 yards, because that man is a nightmare. But yeah, not to get too far ahead of the Packers, I think the Lions can win this game. Probably something close, kind of like this one, 24-21. Kind of, game gets kind of tense. The Lions kind of pull away a little bit late. Packers come back with a scare. Lions defense holds.
I think it's good to talk through some of the challenges and what we're seeing ahead with the Lions, because I still have full faith in this organization, without a doubt. But we got to keep our eyes on things.
Yeah, an old friend posted on Facebook. They were like, my kid, after yesterday, I was like, man, the Lions always win. And it's like, I could not say that as a child. It's something I can never say as a child. Maybe for like 1 year, and even then, because I watched them the year before, I know that they never win. So, like, to hear like the young fans are like, wow, the Lions are one of the best teams in the league. It's like, it's crazy. Like, they just picked up football not long ago. They didn't have to go through the doldrums of watching this team lose 16 games, lose 15 games, be happy with the fact that they're spoiling someone else's season. Now they are the ones who need to have their season not be spoiled. So yeah, it's really great to see the Lions in the position they are in right now. And especially it's great to see them, even with injuries chipping away, still moving forward nonetheless.
A number of listeners mentioned this. I wanted to ask you really quick. The blue on the uniforms is a bit more saturated. Like, the blue for the Lions in general has gone from lighter to a bit more saturated blue. What are your thoughts? Because I know you really like fresh gear.
They could wear periwinkle. I don't, just keep winning games. I do not care about.
Spoken like a true coach.
They're like Honolulu blue. I'm like, yeah, man, I know. It's like, it's not as Honolulu. I don't care. It could be Maui blue. It could be Philadelphia blue. I do not care. Go win the game, and we'll talk about the jerseys after.
All right, Fletcher Sharpe at Saint FDW, everywhere you can find things. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Thank you so much for listening on this holiday weekend. Remember that we're supported by our members, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Local media requires local support to survive. So really appreciate your support. I hope that you all have a happy holiday weekend, and we will talk next week.